So I do most of my research and development in the wee early morning hours. And one of the things that I've come to love is that when Alligator IO comes up in my Google searches, they default their site to a dark theme during those early morning hours so that it doesn't burn my eyeballs. And taking some inspiration, I want to do a fun little code kata where I try to do the same type of thing in my Angular application. That is, default the theme of the site based on the user's time of day. So I'm currently accessing this at 7:24 a.m. and you'll see if I refresh that the entire theme here is dark, and you'll notice there's a little flash of quote-unquote unstyled text, but you'll notice that the theme remains dark even during that flash, right? The title of the page is dark before the Angular application has a chance to bootstrap. And you'll see here in the HTML tag we have this CSS class dark theme being applied, and again that's also being applied prior to the bootstrapping of the Angular application. Now once the app bootstraps, I then have the ability to switch back and forth between the light and the dark theme, which you can see is adjusting the CSS class here in the HTML tag. So let's just take a look at how I attempted to do this code kata. So because we want the theme to default before the Angular application has a chance to bootstrap, we need to put the logic outside the silo of the Angular app and in the head of the HTML page that's being served to the user. So you can see here in the head tag I have a non-blocking JavaScript tag, non-blocking in the sense that it's not remote loading script, so it is just inline. And all I have to do here is instantiate an instance of the date object, and from the date object, which is instantiated in the user's local date time, we can get the current hours of the day, and then I just have to look to see if those hours fall in or outside of a certain set of delimiters. In this case, I'm going to consider the light theme, the so-called 9 to 5 hours, the working hours, and then anything outside of that is going to be the dark theme. So if it's 7:25 right now, we're defaulting to the dark theme because it's earlier than 9 o'clock. And here I'm simply getting the document element of the web page here, which is the HTML tag, and I'm adding the selected theme. Now the theme on the HTML tag then gets used to set some default CSS properties on the body, which is why we're able to get that dark theme even before the Angular application has a chance to bootstrap. Of course, once the Angular application does bootstrap, we want to use the Angular application to drive the theming. To do that, I created a theme service. Now the theme service needs to not override the default theme that we just defined in the head tag, which means that in the constructor for my theme service here, I'm going to use the document element as the source of truth for the initialization of the service, which means that I'm going to look into that document element, that HTML tag, check to see if it contains that dark theme class, and if it does, I'm going to initialize the theme to be dark, otherwise I'm going to initialize it to be light. At this point, we're no longer using the DOM as the source of truth. We only have to do that once on service initialization, and after that, you'll see that if the user goes to set a theme to dark or light, we then write that theme back to the DOM, which uses the same kind of approach, right? We just hit that document head and then remove any classes and then add the appropriate theme class here based on the dark or the light theme. So we're still synchronizing the HTML page with the service, but we're using the service as the source of truth after the application has been bootstrapped. And then in my app component, I simply have those two little links here for selecting the theme, either the light or the dark. And you can see if we jump down here, all that does is turn around and ask the theme service to set the theme. Then of course the theme service is under the hood writing a CSS class to the document element of the HTML page, which is the HTML tag. Now you'll notice one thing that we do is that when we go from light to dark, the border here of the block quote changes color. And that's just a minor demonstration of how the CSS theming can work based on host context. If we jump into the less file, right, if we jump into my less file behind the app component, what we'll see is in the quote definition, we have the default here, and this is defaulting to the light theme, and then I'm checking to see if this component exists inside of a dark theme context, and if it does, I simply override that border color to be dark. So just a simple way to use CSS to theme an application based on host context, not necessarily as elegant as CSS custom properties, aka CSS variables, but certainly very easy to do. But primarily this was just a fun code kata, something to get my brain warmed up for the day, and you can see again as I refresh here that the theming of the site is defaulting to dark because it is prior to 9 a.m.